For as long as I can remember, I've been a fan of the horror movie genre. But when it came to survival horror video games, I was less than enthralled, though I did enjoy the first 4 Resident Evil games, all for different reasons, and Silent Hill 2 proved to be one of the greatest feats in creating true suspense and terror. As the generations passed, more developers had the tools to make their own horrific experiences, even on a shoestring budget. So is the case with Camel 101 developed Those Who Remain. Though it had terrible to mediocre reviews, the low price point and genuine curiosity had me intrigued enough to give it a try on the PlayStation 4. Playing as Edward Turner, an alcoholic trying to drink the remainder of his life away, players will enter a town waiting to ravage him with horrors unlike anything he's ever seen, Dormont. Taking control of Edward, it becomes obvious something supernatural is afoot as he's carjacked, left stranded in this perpetually dark environment. An odd stranger stands in the distance sporting glowing blue eyes and various weapons or tools. Beyond Edward avoiding a deadly stabbing by not going too deep into the darkness, he'll have to sneak around the obviously distressed town while discovering the truth behind everything that caused Dormont to lose his grip of reality. Containing several choices to make, the game features 3 different endings, with consistency being the reason as to why the player attains whatever finale is witnessed. By being a forgiving soul, I ended up with the best ending possible after my 5-hour playthrough. While obviously not the longest game in the world, several annoying levels and general lost interest due to learning the full story during my initial playthrough discouraged a second and third go-round to see what would happen to Edward if he decided to be hateful to those who already hated themselves. Those Who Remain starts off by introducing the player to the fact that Light is Edward's best friend, as he has no way of defending himself. After entering Dormont and having his car stolen, Edward is forced to make his way through the various locales making up Dormont, including a small diner, post office, fire department, and even the homes of those who are responsible for the story's most horrific points. One of the best aspects about the narrative is the fact it emphasizes no one is pure, no one is perfect, and everyone is trying to take care of those they love, even if it means hurting someone innocent. Through notes, journals, and listening to the stories of a few NPCs not trying to kill Edward, the plot unveils itself while producing something both memorable and cliché. Another major element in regards to the game's story is the choice system. Usually during the latter half of a level, Edward will be confronted with a choice courtesy of a mysterious figure. The decision to condemn or forgive dictates the one of 3 endings the player can attain. Sadly, only consistency will produce the various endings, as mixing up condemnation and forgiveness will just give the player the default ending, without the game actually weighing the importance connected to each choice. Unfortunately, the gameplay hinders a lot of the fun that goes into discovering why Dormont has become such a terrible place. Beyond turning on nearby light switches to avoid being stabbed by one of the lurking damned, a majority of the time the player will be opening or moving the numerous interactable dresser drawers, lockers, and cardboard boxes in an attempt to find, say, a key necessary to unlock a door that may or may not feature another required search. There are times when the point of interest to activate the next section will take forever for a player to discover, especially when it's necessary to enter the game's equivalent of the negative zone or the upside down from the Stranger Things series. Having to move around and search for random objects like a cane needed to pull down a fire escape ladder because Edward can jump a good 6 inches off the ground can be hindered by clunky, somewhat sluggish controls that match this rather late 6th or early 7th generation presentation. Certain puzzles, though not complicated, impede the player by slowing them down or forcing them to be stealthy, or both, as seen during the level where Edward has to slowly carry lion statues to an open area, while attempting to avoid the glare of a gigantic creature. To shake things up for the player, there are more than just Dark Watchers to contend with, including a patrolling mutant that appears from time to time to oddly search for Edward with its spotlight for a face. There is also a shrieking woman who will chase Edward periodically. Both instances can be stressful, mostly due to the game's checkpoint autosave system. that may or may not force the player to redo a puzzle section or simply avoid the threat that killed Edward seconds ago. Technically, the game starts off rather well, with masterful lighting effects. The glow of every enemy's eyes is truly haunting. Sound too is horrific, but for all the wrong reasons, as a majority of the vocals are incredibly low, with the music and certain sound effects blasting way too loudly at various points. The game is also rough around the edges regarding stability. After a strong start, the game had various moments of noticeable frame rate slowdown. Various glitches can happen, mostly thanks to moved interactable items, including enemies attacking through walls if Edward gets too close to a divider, and even a broken ending where Edward fell through the world when attempting to go through a door. With a strong narrative premise, claustrophobic atmosphere, and some striking lighting effects, Those Who Remain suffers from outdated gameplay mechanics, technical issues, underwhelming puzzles, and some questionable levels that doesn't do a good job encouraging the player to immediately do a second playthrough. While not sporting the best graphics and having some gameplay decisions that will make someone think they're playing a game from 2010, Those Who Remain does present a heavy story built on choices both by the player and the NPCs Edward does or never meets. The controls are rather sluggish, with puzzles that don't need much thought beyond looking at the right spot. For all its flaws and shortcomings, Those Who Remain doesn't feature an insulting price point, making it a rather easy purchase for anyone interested in playing a game featuring more psychological scares than those that will cause a person to jump out of their seat. Though Those Who Remain won't go down as one of the most innovative or mildly remarkable horror games of its generation, this is something horror gamers should give a go, especially if it's on sale, unless the thought of a shrieking woman chasing you down an empty road or a cluttered hallway is too much to handle.
Shit.